The grocery store riots haven't started yet, but when they do, it won't be over the expensive stuff. It'll be a 79-cent item that triggers the chaos. Here's what's going to shock you. While everyone fights over bread and milk, the smart ones will be grabbing 9 specific household products that most people walk past every single day. These aren't survival gear. They're ordinary items sitting on shelves right now that become priceless when society breaks down. I'm about to show you exactly what these 9 items are, why each one becomes a survival necessity, and more importantly, why people will literally fight over them when the shelves go empty. Let's jump straight into the first one, because this could save your family's life. Item number 1, heavy-duty aluminum foil. Heavy-duty aluminum foil isn't just for wrapping leftovers. When the grid goes down, it becomes insulation, a cooking surface, a signal reflector, water collection system, and even makeshift armor for your windows. During the 2021 Texas freeze, when millions lost power for days, families who understood foil's properties wrapped it around water pipes to prevent freezing. They lined walls with it to reflect heat back into rooms. They created makeshift solar ovens when their electric stoves stopped working. Some even used it to line cardboard and create emergency insulation for broken windows. But here's the critical detail most people miss. Thin foil tears apart when you need it most. Heavy-duty foil costs 3 times more, but lasts 10 times longer. When you're trying to cook over an open fire, thin foil disintegrates. When you need to signal for help, flimsy foil won't reflect enough light. When you need to line a container to make it waterproof, cheap foil develops holes. In Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria, families used heavy-duty foil in ways most people never imagined. They lined damaged roofs to prevent water infiltration. They created solar cookers by lining boxes with foil to concentrate heat. They fashioned water collection systems by lining gutters and funneling rainwater into containers. The thin stuff was completely useless for these applications. Here's something that happened during the early COVID lockdowns that most people don't know about. While everyone was panicking over toilet paper, a small group of smart preppers quietly bought every roll of heavy-duty foil they could find in their local stores. They understood something the masses didn't. You can substitute a lot of things for toilet paper, but there's no real substitute for aluminum foil when you need it for survival applications. The problem is, stores don't stock much heavy-duty foil because it's expensive compared to regular foil. Most grocery stores carry maybe 2 or 3 rolls on the shelf at any given time. When panic buying starts, it vanishes in minutes. Hardware stores sometimes stock it in larger quantities, but even then, it's usually gone within hours of any emergency announcement. I learned this lesson personally during a camping trip that turned into an unplanned survival situation when our vehicle broke down 40 miles from the nearest town. We had regular aluminum foil with us, thinking it would be sufficient for cooking and food storage. By the second day, the thin foil had torn apart from normal use. We couldn't cook properly, couldn't store food safely, and couldn't create effective signaling devices. If we'd had heavy-duty foil, that 3-day ordeal would have been manageable instead of dangerous. Stock up now. Get at least a dozen rolls and store them in a dry place. Because when you need to turn your kitchen into a survival workshop, heavy-duty aluminum foil isn't just helpful. It's absolutely essential for maintaining basic functions. Item number 2, contractor-grade garbage bags. Forget those flimsy kitchen bags that tear when you look at them sideways. Contractor-grade garbage bags become waterproof storage, emergency shelters, waste management systems, water collection devices, and even clothing when society breaks down. We're talking about thick, puncture-resistant bags designed for construction debris. These bags can hold 50 pounds without breaking and resist tears from sharp objects. The difference between contractor bags and regular garbage bags is like the difference between a tarp and tissue paper. When your neighborhood loses water service for weeks, suddenly every family is dealing with waste that can't be flushed away. Flimsy bags will leak, tear, and create unsanitary conditions that breed disease faster than you can imagine. But contractor-grade bags can safely contain waste until services resume or until you can dispose of it properly in a safe location. But waste management is just the beginning. Need to collect rainwater? Regular bags develop holes the moment you try to fill them with any significant amount of water. Contractor bags can hold 20 gallons of water without breaking, and they can be sealed and stored for weeks without leaking. During water shortages, this capability becomes literally life-saving. During Hurricane Katrina, I spoke with families who used contractor-grade bags for everything from waterproofing electronics to creating temporary privacy screens in overcrowded shelters. They used them to transport supplies when their cars were flooded. They used them as ground covers in muddy conditions. They even used them as emergency ponchos by cutting holes for their heads and arms. Here's a story that illustrates their versatility. A family in Louisiana lost their roof during the hurricane and used contractor bags to create a temporary shelter system. They stretched the bags between remaining wall studs and secured them with duct tape, creating a waterproof barrier that kept their living space dry for 2 weeks until professional help arrived. Regular garbage bags would have failed within hours. In colder climates, these bags have unexpected insulation properties. Filled with leaves, newspapers, or even air, they can create effective barriers against cold. Some homeless individuals have used them as sleeping bag liners to trap body heat during freezing temperatures. While we hope never to need such applications, the knowledge could save lives in desperate situations. Here's the key insight that most people miss. In normal times, a box of contractor bags costs maybe $15 more than regular bags. During a crisis, that $15 difference becomes the difference between maintaining functional, sanitary living conditions and descending into dangerous, disease-breeding chaos. But most people don't even know these bags exist until it's too late. They're typically stocked in the contractor sections of hardware stores away from regular household goods, so average shoppers never see them. When panic buying starts, the contractors, construction workers, and smart preppers clean out the supply before regular consumers even realize there are better options available. The bags also serve as excellent bartering material. When everyone is struggling with waste management and water collection, having extra contractor-grade bags makes you valuable to your community. People will trade food, tools, and other necessities for reliable containment solutions. Get several boxes now and store them with your emergency supplies. Look for bags rated at least 3 mil thickness. Anything thinner won't hold up to serious use. Because when sanitation systems fail and you need reliable containment for everything from waste to water to emergency supplies, contractor-grade bags aren't just useful. They become necessary for maintaining basic health and safety standards. Item number 3. Commercial manual can openers. Everyone knows you need a manual can opener when the power goes out, but 90% of people are buying cheaply made pieces of junk that will break after opening a dozen cans. This mistake could leave their family hungry, even with cabinets full of canned food. Here's the brutal reality. Most manual can openers sold in grocery stores and discount retailers are designed for occasional use, not for feeding a family from canned goods for weeks or months. They're made with cheap metal that bends, plastic components that crack, and cutting wheels that dull quickly under repeated use. I learned this lesson the hard way during a week-long power outage following an ice storm. I had plenty of canned food and thought I was prepared with the standard manual opener from the grocery store. By day 3, the opener had bent under normal use. The cutting wheel had become so dull it wouldn't cut cleanly, and I was struggling to open a single can of soup. I ended up using a knife and hammer to punch holes around can lids, a dangerous, wasteful, and exhausting process that destroyed half the food in each can.
That experience taught me that not all manual can openers are created equal. What you need is a commercial-grade opener designed for high-volume use in restaurant kitchens. These openers cost $30 to $40 instead of $3, but they can open hundreds of cans without failing, dulling, or bending. The difference is immediately obvious when you hold them. Commercial openers have solid metal construction, comfortable grips designed for extended use, sharp cutting wheels that stay sharp, and mechanisms that won't jam or break under pressure. They're built to withstand the demanding environment of professional kitchens, where they might open dozens of cans per day. In Venezuela, where economic collapse forced families to rely heavily on canned goods as their primary food source, Having a reliable can opener literally meant the difference between eating and going hungry. Families with cheap openers found themselves unable to access their food stores when the openers inevitably failed. Meanwhile, those who had invested in quality openers continued to feed their families efficiently throughout the crisis. But here's what makes this a genuinely fight-worthy item. Commercial-grade can openers aren't widely available in regular retail stores. Most grocery stores and discount retailers carry only cheap consumer models because that's what most customers buy. The few quality openers that do make it to store shelves are usually found in the kitchen gadget sections of higher-end stores, and there might be only one or two in stock. When people start realizing that their bargain openers are useless for sustained use, they'll desperately search for replacements. The few quality openers available will disappear immediately, often right out of people's shopping carts as desperation sets in. Professional restaurant supply stores are better sources for commercial can openers, but most people don't think to shop there until it's too late. These stores typically stock the heavy-duty models that restaurants depend on, but they're not open to the general public during emergencies, and their stock gets depleted quickly when word gets out. The smart move is to buy 2 or 3 high-quality openers now while they're available and reasonably priced. Keep one in your kitchen for regular use, one in your emergency kit, and one as a backup. Look for openers with all-metal construction, comfortable grips that won't slip when your hands are wet or cold, and replaceable cutting wheels for long-term maintenance. Brands like Swing Away Professional, Made in USA restaurant models, and military surplus openers are worth the investment. Some of these openers have been opening cans for decades in demanding environments, proving their reliability when it matters most. Your family's ability to access their food shouldn't depend on a $3 piece of plastic that was never designed for serious use. When canned goods become your primary food source, having a reliable can opener isn't just convenient, it could be the difference between eating and starving. Item number 4. Professional duct tape. The real stuff. What passes for duct tape in big box stores is often cheap cloth tape that falls apart when you actually need it to hold something together. Real duct tape is a completely different animal. Waterproof, temperature resistant, and strong enough to temporarily repair everything from water pipes to car parts. Here's how to tell the difference. Real duct tape should be difficult to tear by hand. If you can easily rip it with your fingers, it's not going to hold up when you need it for serious repairs. Professional-grade tape requires scissors or a knife to cut cleanly, and when you remove it months later, it doesn't leave sticky residue behind that attracts dirt and degrades over time. The adhesive quality is where cheap tape really fails. Bargain duct tape uses water-based adhesives that lose their stickiness in cold weather, high humidity, or when exposed to oils and chemicals. Professional tape uses solvent-based adhesives that maintain their grip in extreme conditions, from desert heat to Arctic cold. During Iceland's 2008 financial crisis, when heating costs skyrocketed beyond what most families could afford, people used real duct tape to weatherize their homes as an emergency measure. They sealed windows, patched holes in walls, and even created temporary insulation systems. The cheap tape failed within days as temperatures dropped, but quality tape lasted through entire winters, keeping families warm when they couldn't afford fuel. In survival situations, duct tape becomes far more than a repair tool. It can create splints for broken bones, waterproof containers for critical supplies, emergency rope when cordage isn't available, and even temporary shoes when your boots fail in harsh conditions. I've seen it used to repair tents during storms, seal food containers against pests, and create makeshift tools when proper hardware wasn't available. But the applications go beyond basic repairs. During Hurricane Sandy, families used professional-grade duct tape to secure plywood over broken windows, creating weatherproof seals that held for weeks. They used it to repair water collection systems, patch holes in containers, and even create temporary hinges for doors damaged in the storm. Here's a real-world example of why quality matters. A family in Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria used cheap duct tape to patch a hole in their roof. The tape failed after 2 days of heat and humidity, allowing water to damage their stored supplies and create dangerous mold conditions. Their neighbors, who used military-grade duct tape for the same repair, had a seal that lasted 3 months until professional repairs could be made. The problem is that when crisis hits, people grab whatever duct tape they can find. The cheap stuff disappears first because it's more widely available and costs less. The professional-grade tape is usually found in smaller quantities in the contractor sections of stores, and the people who know to look for it clean out the supply quickly. You want to look for specific brands that are proven in demanding conditions. 3M professional-grade duct tape is used by HVAC contractors and military units. Gorilla Tape has a reputation for extreme adhesion and durability. Military surplus tape, when you can find it, is designed to perform in combat conditions where failure isn't an option. Yes, these tapes cost 3 times more than bargain tape, but they perform 10 times better when it actually matters. A roll of professional tape might cost $12 instead of $4, but when you need to make emergency repairs that could determine your family's survival, that $8 difference becomes meaningless. Stock up on multiple rolls now and store them in moderate temperatures to preserve the adhesive quality. Keep one in your house, one in your car, and several in your emergency kit. Because when you need to make repairs in difficult conditions, using inferior materials isn't just frustrating, it can be dangerous when the repair fails at the worst possible moment.
Item number 5. Quality disposable plates and utensils. When water becomes scarce or contaminated, washing dishes transforms from a simple chore into a major health hazard that could kill your family. That's when disposable plates and utensils stop being wasteful convenience items and start being essential tools for preventing disease. Think about the reality of washing dishes without hot running water. Every plate, fork, and cup you wash becomes a potential breeding ground for bacteria, viruses, and parasites. Your sink becomes contaminated with food particles and organic matter. Your sponges and dishcloths become toxic carriers of pathogens, and your family becomes vulnerable to foodborne illnesses that could be fatal when medical care isn't available. Without proper hot water and sanitizing agents, you're essentially spreading contamination from meal to meal. What seems like cleanliness is actually creating conditions for diseases like Salmonella, E. coli, and norovirus to thrive and spread throughout your household. This is why smart preppers stockpile on high-quality disposable tableware. Not the flimsy paper plates that disintegrate when they get wet, but sturdy plastic or foam plates that can handle hot food, resist breaking under normal use, and provide a genuinely sanitary eating surface for every meal. During Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, families quickly learned this lesson through brutal experience. Those with adequate supplies of disposable tableware maintained sanitary eating conditions throughout the crisis, while others struggled with dirty dishes, contaminated water, and spreading illness that weakened them when they needed strength most. FEMA relief workers specifically distributed disposable plates and utensils in disaster zones because they understood the critical health implications. When you're dealing with thousands of displaced people in close quarters, preventing the spread of foodborne illness becomes a matter of life and death for the entire community. But there's another angle to this that most people completely miss. Disposable tableware becomes a valuable trading commodity when everyone is struggling with sanitation issues. When families are living without proper washing facilities, having clean plates and utensils becomes worth far more than their normal retail price. I've heard documented stories from economic collapses in other countries where people traded disposable plates for food, medicine, and other necessities. A box of sturdy plates that cost $10 in normal times became worth $50 worth of trade goods when sanitation became a community crisis. Here's a specific example from Venezuela's economic collapse. Families who had stockpiled quality disposable tableware found themselves in high demand among neighbors who were struggling with disease from contaminated dishes. They traded plates and utensils for everything from gasoline to prescription medications, making their foresight incredibly valuable. The key is buying quality disposables in bulk quantities. Restaurant supply stores sell heavy-duty plates and utensils designed for institutional use, the kind that can handle hot soup without bending, and forks that won't break when cutting meat. A case of professional-grade plates might cost $50, but it could feed your family for months without risking illness. Here's what to look for: plates that don't bend or fold when loaded with normal amounts of food, forks and knives that won't snap under reasonable pressure, and cups that don't leak or develop cracks with normal use. Avoid anything made from recycled materials, which tend to be weaker and potentially less sanitary than new plastic products. The foam plates used by many schools and institutions are particularly good because they provide insulation for hot foods and are sturdy enough for multiple courses. Heavy-duty plastic utensils designed for catering can be washed and reused if necessary, extending their value even further. Stock up on these items now while they're available at normal prices. During crisis conditions, when everyone realizes the health implications of dirty dishes, these supplies disappear from stores within hours. The people who understood their importance ahead of time will be eating safely while others risk their health with every meal.
Item number 7. Lithium batteries, not the alkaline junk most people buy. Everyone knows to stock up on batteries when disaster strikes, but most people are buying the wrong types and storing them incorrectly. This critical mistake leaves them with dead batteries when they need power most, turning their flashlights, radios, and emergency devices into useless hunks of plastic. Here's the battery secret that could save your life. Alkaline batteries are terrible for long-term storage and emergency use. They leak corrosive acid that destroys devices. They lose charge over time, even when not in use, and they fail completely in extreme temperatures. What you need are lithium batteries for critical devices and high-quality rechargeable batteries for everything else. Lithium batteries cost 3 to 4 times more than alkaline batteries, but they last 10 times longer in storage, perform reliably in temperatures from -40 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit, and most importantly, they don't leak the corrosive chemicals that can destroy your devices from the inside. During the 2021 Texas freeze, when millions of people lost power for days in sub-zero temperatures, families discovered that their alkaline batteries had lost most of their charge in the cold weather. Flashlights that should have provided hours of light dimmed to uselessness within minutes. Emergency radios barely functioned when people desperately needed information. Critical medical devices failed when patients needed them most. Meanwhile, families who had invested in lithium batteries found their devices continued working normally throughout the crisis. Their flashlights provided full brightness for the entire duration of the power outage. Their radios maintained clear reception for emergency broadcasts. Their backup power systems functioned exactly as designed. But there's another battery strategy that most people completely overlook: rechargeable batteries paired with solar chargers. While everyone else is hoarding single-use batteries that will eventually run out, you can create an unlimited power supply for small devices that will work as long as the sun shines. A basic solar charger costs $20 to $30 and can recharge AA, AAA, and other common battery sizes indefinitely. Paired with high-quality rechargeable batteries like Inaloop or similar brands, you have a sustainable power solution that doesn't depend on supply chains or store availability. Here's the strategic approach that smart preppers use. Different devices need different battery strategies based on their importance and usage patterns. Smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, and emergency radios should use lithium batteries because they need to work reliably for months or years without attention. Flashlights, portable radios, and devices you use regularly should use rechargeable batteries because you can maintain their charge through normal use and solar charging. Keep backup alkaline batteries for trading with neighbors and for devices that aren't critical to survival. Most people just grab whatever batteries are cheapest at the store without considering temperature storage requirements, expiration dates, or the specific needs of their devices. Then, when crisis hits, they discover they have boxes of batteries that are either dead, leaking, or incapable of powering their equipment when it matters most. The smart approach requires some initial investment in planning. Inventory all your battery-powered devices and determine their specific requirements. Critical safety devices get lithium batteries. Regular use items get rechargeable batteries. Everything else gets alkaline as backup or for trading purposes. Store lithium batteries in climate-controlled conditions to maximize their already impressive shelf life. Maintain rechargeable batteries by cycling them regularly. Use them, recharge them, and repeat to keep them in peak condition. Rotate alkaline batteries to ensure you're not storing expired units that will fail when needed. Here's something most people don't realize. Batteries become extremely valuable trading commodities during extended emergencies. When everyone's devices start failing and stores are empty, having fresh batteries makes you incredibly valuable to your community. People will trade food, tools, and services for reliable power sources. But you have to plan this correctly. Cheap batteries that fail quickly actually hurt your reputation and trading position. Quality batteries that perform as expected build trust and make you someone others want to work with for mutual survival. Stock up on the right types of batteries now, while you can choose quality over price and availability over scarcity. Because when the lights go out and stay out, the difference between good batteries and cheap batteries could determine whether your family stays connected to information, light, and safety, or gets cut off from everything they need to survive.
Item number 8. Water purification tablets, your backup when storage runs out. Everyone knows to store water for emergencies, but what happens when your stored water runs out and you need to purify questionable water from streams, rain collection, or other uncertain sources? You need reliable water purification tablets that can turn potentially deadly water into safe drinking water. Water purification tablets are lightweight, shelf-stable for years, and can treat hundreds of gallons of water from a single bottle. Unlike water filters that can break, clog, or freeze, tablets work in any container and kill bacteria, viruses, and parasites that cause deadly waterborne illnesses like cholera, dysentery, and giardia. During disasters in developing countries, water purification tablets have prevented massive cholera outbreaks and saved countless lives when normal water treatment facilities were destroyed or overwhelmed. They're standard equipment for military units and relief organizations because they're foolproof, effective, and nearly impossible to use incorrectly. But here's what most people don't understand. Not all water purification tablets are created equal. The cheap iodine tablets you find in camping stores leave a terrible metallic taste that can trigger nausea, and they can't be used safely by pregnant women or people with thyroid conditions. More importantly, iodine tablets are less effective against certain parasites and viruses that could still make you sick. What you want are chlorine dioxide tablets, which are what the military uses because they're the most effective and versatile option available. They kill everything that can make you sick, they don't have the health restrictions of iodine tablets, and they leave much less aftertaste in treated water. Chlorine dioxide tablets are harder to find and more expensive than iodine tablets, but the difference in effectiveness and safety makes them worth the extra cost. Each tablet can treat a liter of water, and they work against bacteria, viruses, parasites, and even some chemical contaminants that other methods miss. Here's a real-world example of why this matters. During Hurricane Harvey, when flooding contaminated municipal water supplies throughout Houston, families who understood water purification were able to safely use water from questionable sources, while others were completely dependent on bottled water deliveries that often didn't arrive when promised. The tablets work by releasing chlorine dioxide when dissolved in water, which oxidizes and destroys the cell walls of harmful microorganisms. The process takes about 30 minutes for full effectiveness, but it produces water that's genuinely safe to drink, cook with, and use for hygiene purposes. But there's another advantage to tablets over other purification methods. They're nearly impossible to break or damage. Water filters can crack in freezing weather, UV purifiers need batteries that can die, and boiling water requires fuel that might not be available. Tablets just need water and time to work effectively. Most stores don't stock many water purification tablets because they're considered specialty camping items. When people realize they need to purify found water sources, supplies disappear quickly from outdoor stores and online retailers. The smart approach is to buy several bottles of tablets now and store them with your emergency supplies. Look for chlorine dioxide tablets from reputable manufacturers like Katahdin, Aquatabs, or military surplus suppliers. Each bottle typically contains 50 to 100 tablets and costs between $15 and $30. Calculate your family's water needs and stock accordingly. Each person needs about 1 gallon of water per day for drinking, cooking, and basic hygiene. A bottle of 100 tablets can treat 100 liters, which is about 26 gallons, enough for one person for nearly a month. Store the tablets in cool, dry conditions to maximize their shelf life, which is typically 3 to 5 years from manufacture date. Keep them in their original containers to protect them from moisture and contamination. Having water purification tablets doesn't just protect your family, it makes you valuable to your community when water sources become questionable. Being able to help neighbors turn unsafe water into drinking water builds relationships and mutual support systems that could be crucial for long-term survival. Stock up on these tablets now while they're available and affordable, because when your stored water runs out and you need to use questionable sources, having reliable purification capability could literally be the difference between life and death for your family.
Item number 9. Emergency blankets. Space blankets that actually work. These thin metallic blankets might look like cheap toys, but they're sophisticated survival tools designed by NASA that can save your life in multiple scenarios. Real emergency blankets reflect 90% of your body heat back to you, are completely waterproof, and weigh almost nothing while taking up virtually no storage space. In hyperthermia situations, these blankets can mean the difference between life and death when your body can't generate enough heat to maintain core temperature. They work by reflecting your own body heat back to you rather than trying to generate warmth, which makes them incredibly effective even in extreme cold conditions. But their uses go far beyond just keeping warm. Emergency blankets can collect rainwater when stretched between trees or posts, creating effective water collection surfaces that channel precipitation into containers. They can signal for help over vast distances because their reflective surface is visible to aircraft from miles away. They create ground barriers that keep you dry in wet conditions and can even line shelters to reflect heat from fires or other sources. During the 2021 Texas freeze, families who understood how to use emergency blankets properly were able to stay warm in unheated homes by lining rooms with a reflective material and trapping warm air inside. Those thin metallic sheets kept people alive when traditional blankets and clothing weren't sufficient for the extreme temperatures. Here's a specific example of their versatility. A family whose heating system failed used emergency blankets to create a warm room by covering windows and doorways, reflecting their own body heat back into a single room where they could survive comfortably while the rest of their house remained dangerously cold. The blankets also work in reverse. They can provide cooling in extreme heat by reflecting solar radiation away from your body or shelter. This dual capability makes them valuable in both winter and summer emergency scenarios. But there's a huge quality difference between real emergency blankets and the cheap versions sold as novelty items. Quality emergency blankets are made from durable mylar material that won't tear with normal handling. They're large enough to wrap around an adult completely and thick enough to maintain their integrity through multiple uses. Cheap emergency blankets are often thin, small, and tear easily with minimal handling. They're designed more for psychological comfort than actual survival effectiveness. When your life depends on staying warm, using inferior materials could be fatal. Military surplus and name-brand camping emergency blankets are worth the extra cost.
So here's what I want you to do today. Don't wait until tomorrow or next week or when you have more money. Take action now while these items are still available at reasonable prices. Review these 9 items: heavy-duty aluminum foil, contractor-grade garbage bags, commercial manual can openers, professional duct tape, quality disposable tableware, airtight storage containers, lithium batteries, water purification tablets, and emergency blankets. Write down what you need, make a plan to get them systematically, and execute that plan quickly. Every day you wait is another day closer to these items becoming unavailable or unaffordable. And if you want a comprehensive system that puts this all together, check out the Dark Reset Guide I mentioned. The link is in the description, and I believe it could make the difference between your family thriving versus barely surviving. Remember, preparation isn't about fear. It's about responsibility. It's about being the person your family can count on when everything becomes uncertain. The fights in stores haven't started yet, but when they do, you'll be grateful you prepared for the right things instead of just the obvious ones. Stay prepared, stay smart, and I'll see you in the next video.